Welcome to A Novel Talk. I'm Wendy Kendall, cozy mystery author. I invite you to visit my website, wendywritesbooks.com, to see more about my published books of the In Pursuit mysteries. It all started with Cat Out of the Bag, where Cat with a K is Catherine Watson, a purse designer and amateur sleuth. When Bayside's town mayor is found murdered at the exciting purse fashion gala event, of course, Catherine feels compelled to investigate and find the killer before she becomes the next knockoff. This book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all online retailers, as are all my Bayside mystery books, including Snow Kiss Cookies to Die For, which was finalist for Best Suspense at Killer Nashville. And if you're looking forward to spring and summer, enjoy my romp of romance and mystery, Cherry Shakes in the Park. Find out more on my website, wendywritesbooks.com. Thank you very much to all my readers who've told me how much they've enjoyed my books. And book 6 in the series is on the way. And here's your co-host.
Hi, Wendy. Thanks. I can't wait for the next installment in Pursuit. My name is Carl Lee, and I write paranormal thrillers. My current book, Brenda McCoy Witch Detective, is in progress, and hopefully we'll be ready for editing shortly.
Our guest today is Cara Bertoia, a talented author who threw the dice to write what she knows, and her gamble is a win for readers. In her 20s, on a summer hiatus from teaching in North Carolina, she drove to California and became a dealer in Lake Tahoe. The desert sun raved, quote, "As is often the case, the author pulls from real-life experiences to create a worthy piece of fiction. And her own life is a vivid kaleidoscope of adventure." Casino Queen arrives at the perfect time when crime-solving tales that revolve around strong female protagonists aren't just a luck of a draw. Welcome to A Novel Talk, Cara Bertoia.
Thank you, Carl and Wendy. I feel so honored to be interviewed by such accomplished authors. It seems we all like to solve mysteries, but the fun part is that we also get to create them. My husband, Ray, is also in the casino business. We met on a Princess cruise ship where we both worked. The day he jumped ship to be with me, we drove from Los Angeles to Palm Springs and got a job at one of the Indian casinos that were opening up there. We had known each other for 3 months, and we got married in Vegas a month later. The book came about because whenever we watched a movie set in a casino, we always found a mistake. Those movies were my inspiration. We rewatched Croupier the other day, found 5 mistakes in the first 10 minutes. Wrong amount of chips, picked up the cards the wrong way, switched money between hands, and more. We always said we could do better, so one day I decided to try.
Well, your experience with casinos is prevalent throughout this book, and a casino is a great backdrop for your book, Casino Queen. You were able to capture the frenetic energy of the casino floor. How does that energy translate to spur the reader on to the next page, paragraph, chapter?
I don't know why, but I was always fascinated by casinos. They exuded glamour. In a movie, the women dressed up to the nines and the men seemed so handsome. I had just graduated college when I went to Lake Tahoe. It was so fantastic. Action everywhere you turn. Alcohol flowing, money crossing over the blackjack tables, a band playing in the background, hundreds of people milling about on the casino floor, each living out their unique story. First, I needed to introduce the readers to the layout of the casino floor and the jobs that the employees do. They used to call us team members. Make the reader feel like they are part of the Nighthawk, then zoom in and let the characters tell their stories amid all the chaos that is a casino on a Saturday night.
You did that abundantly.
Yes, I just love this story. I loved reading this book. One quote from Casino Queen about your protagonist, who, by the way, the protagonist is nicknamed the Casino Queen. Here's the quote. On the way back down the hill, Caroline told herself this was either a place to hide or find herself. She just wasn't sure which she was trying to do. End of quote. Can you tell us a little about Caroline Popoff's struggles?
Well, Caroline is someone who used to just let life happen to her. Her best friend and then her husband decided the path she followed. She always considered herself an average person with a serious side. But when she found herself left alone in Palm Springs, deeply in debt, without a white knight riding, swooping in to save her, she realized she better save herself. And the best place to do that turned out to be the most unlikely place in the world, a casino. Lucky for her, Native American casinos were opening in Southern California, providing opportunities for thousands of people. The job offered her a lifeline. Not only did she find a job, she became immersed in casino culture, just sort of like I did. Through the years, she worked her way up to the job of casino manager and found out she was pretty darn good at her job and her life. But you don't manage a casino without making some enemies.
Well, you wouldn't have much of a story without enemies either. More about the setting. You talk about the heat in the desert during the day and the chill at the night. You also mention the smells of flowers and the sense of passing of time. You just kind of layer this stuff in so delicately. How do you add these qualities without going 7 pages of how hot the desert is?
Well, I never like a book that has too much description, but that is a quite interesting question. I belong to the Facebook group, The Book Lounge, and someone asked the question, do you see a movie when you are reading a book? You can imagine the great conversation that started. I realized that I'm writing a movie when I write a book. I close my eyes to set the scene. Since I'm writing from experience, it is important for readers to see and feel the things I did. It might be because that the first serious writing I did was a movie treatment.
Wow.
I've got another quote from Casino Queen. Here it goes. She found it hard to distinguish the early birds from the players who had spent the night chasing a dream. End of quote. One of many wow examples of the vivid, concise ways you make the setting of the Nighthawk Casino pop. The place resonates. As an author, what do you find most effective in crafting a picture of a scene in the reader's mind?
I like to write taut, tight descriptions, like Charles Bukowski, one of the authors that was my inspiration. A pit boss introduced him to me when I worked in Lake Tahoe. I also thought Carrie Fisher was great at writing quotable lines. Think When Harry Met Sally. Dealers get a 20-minute break every hour, so they are huge readers. Bukowski just wrote about his day. He lived in Los Angeles and worked in the post office, and I felt like I worked there alongside him. I love to make up little quotes to describe the scene. My most famous one, it's hard to walk away from a winning streak, even harder to leave the table when you're on a losing one. It took years of watching customers go from winning to losing everything. The more they lost, the more determined they became. It seemed no one knew when to cut their losses. I just got to witness it in real time. That quote has been included in a Goodreads list of best gambling quotes and dozens more. I must admit, I'm a bit of a cynic, and I love to observe the people around me. You gain a lot of casino wisdom from the other side of the blackjack table. You learn so much about human nature. For
Well,
my
that's a great quote too, though.
For my social media accounts, I make little videos of my quotes set to music. My husband narrates them. He has a wonderful Scottish accent. I hate my accent.
That sounds awesome. Caroline is reflecting on table game players and how they think they're smarter than everyone else in the room. Then later she thinks about how thieves also think they're the smartest people in the room. How does overconfidence factor into a criminal's undoing?
I can't tell you how many times I have been dealing at a table when a player has just lost all his or her money, and yet they are so quick to criticize the other players at the table for what they think is a bad move. They were obviously rich, smart people who knew the odds before they even sat down at the table. Other people might lose their money, but not them. I have friends and family like this, and they don't care that Ray and I have decades in the business. For criminals, there's always a hole in their story, and just one hole can bring them down. In a casino, most criminals cheat, even though they know they are on camera all the time. And these films can go back for months, but most get caught when another player turns them in. They don't want anyone to have an advantage that they don't.
Yeah.
Awesome insights. Okay, now John, the chairman, is a dynamic, complex, and haunting character. Would you tell our listeners a little bit about him?
John Tovar is based on the tribal chairman that I worked for when we came to Palm Springs. He was the most charismatic man I had ever met. He cared about all his employees and made his rounds every night, stopping to talk to each of us. Not your usual stereotype of a casino manager. The benefits were good. We felt cared for. He remembered the details of our stories, and these stories had been gleaned from 100 nationalities that came to Palm Springs from all over the world. He started casinos in Palm Springs for his tribe, and he brought them into prosperity. Native American casinos play by a different set of rules than regular casinos, and I wanted to highlight that in the book. The interest he took in Caroline gave her the confidence she needed to succeed because she wasn't working for a soulless corporation. The Chautauqua tribe depended on her.
Yeah, John is a great character. I really like the interplay between John and Caroline. One of the very first scenes of the book, John adopts Caroline into the Chautauqua tribe. From this point on, she seemed focused on doing what was best for the tribe. How did John's gesture give her a sense of belonging or family?
Well, he made her a part of the tribe. And so then she wanted the tribe to succeed and for him to succeed. So that is what gave her the confidence to do it, because she knew it would be appreciated.
It's so great how he can inspire that confidence, and then she can do that on her own. It's an amazing relationship between them.
Yes.
Cara, you wanted to write the first realistic novel about casino life from the perspective of an experienced table games dealer. I found it such an exciting and fascinating read that reveals a spectrum of human emotions, but surrounded by strict training and rules. Can you share with us from your experience, what is it like to train to be a table games dealer?
It is very scary.
Oh,
You spend weeks in a classroom learning to shuffle and pitch cards over the table without them landing on the floor. You have to be familiar with the hand signals the players use to let the dealers know they want another card. Next, you learn to pay off bets and cut chips, all while standing up the whole time. Now, I'll give you one of my favorite quotes from Casino Queen, which describes Caroline's first night on the casino floor. Dealing a live game was much more intense than the games in dealing school, the true definition of multitasking. On the floor, she needed to concentrate, blank out the band playing in the lounge, ignore the noise of the slot machines, pay no attention to the people milling around in front of her, remember to clear her hands, and keep her eyes peeled on the table, all while maintaining the disposition of a saint. What I didn't add is that dealers know if they make too many mistakes, they will be fired. The heat is always on.
That is an excellent quote. After becoming the casino queen, Carolyn's life slowly takes on an air of normalcy. She's getting her debt paid down. She's recovering from some personal losses. I don't want to give too much away. And despite the inherent dangers of her job, all of this in spite of those dangers, can you tell us about her reunion with her estranged friend Erica, who you mentioned earlier?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I think that friendships are so important in a person's life. Her estrangement from Erica left a big hole in her heart. Erica gave her a job when they left college and provided her with a home. But Caroline felt like she stood in Erica's shadow, and Erica liked it that way. When Caroline found love and began to live her own life, Erica felt threatened. How many friendships have been ripped apart by tension between boyfriend and best friend? When Erica contacted her, she was so excited to have an older, wiser Erica back in her life. A reunion with an old friend reminds us of our youth. And here's another quote. For the first few minutes, the conversation remained awkward, but then they jumped back into the flow. All the years apart seemed to melt away.
I've had that conversation with friends.
I know. It's so wonderful, isn't it, to reunite with an old friend?
That's beautiful. Well, you've created an intriguing array of suspects. What is important when introducing a suspect to readers?
I like to make suspects realistic. They aren't supervillains, just people trying to maximize their earning potential. They usually have blown all their chances and all their money. Like the guy who blew up Harvey's in the 70s, the cautionary tale every dealer learns. I loved creating Derek from Donegal. He is a composite of all the British and Irish dealers I have worked with a dash of my Scottish, very sarcastic husband. Derek just can't get out of his own way. I researched the dialogue to make him sound authentic, and I also gave him a great backstory. Research makes a great suspect. Also, working around great characters from all over the world for 20 years helped. They were villains all around, from loan sharks, drug dealers, and porn kings.
Derek was a great character. I loved him. I thought he was awesome.
Him too.
So we have all shared some of our favorite quotes from Casino Queen. But would you mind treating our listeners to reading a snippet from the novel?
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Awesome.
Chapter 4. A dealer must be able to handle difficult customers in a hostile environment. A few days later, after a surprise rainstorm, the landscape erupted in wildflowers. Indian paintbrush, ocotillo, and purple mat, along with a score of other blooms, painted the desert floor in all shades of the rainbow. Caroline gazed out the window, admiring the countryside as she drove down the hill, past the gun range, around the corner, and onto the road leading to the casino. Her car meandered down the nearly empty highway of the high desert on her way to work, slowly enough to enjoy the glorious day. Stopping at the local donut shop, she took her time choosing a wide variety of tasty treats for the staff. Small gestures like bringing donuts were always a big hit in the employee lounge. Back on the road, her eyes followed the arc of a bald eagle flying across the brilliant blue sky. The eagle landed on the far left corner of the Nighthawk billboard, which stood above the road, 14 feet high and 48 feet wide, enticing travelers to eat, play, win. Glancing upward, she did a double take, A new message painted bright red and 10 feet high covered the billboard. Caroline Popoff must die. She slammed on the brakes, pulled to the curb, and slammed the gear shift into park. She wanted to make sure she had read it right. Getting out of the car, she stood transfixed by the sign. Suddenly, her heart was pounding out of her chest, sure she was going to die. Her legs lost all sensation. Paralyzed, she collapsed to the ground, reeling from a panic attack. Somebody wanted her dead. Derek, Suda, other people she had fired, a customer, or someone who didn't want her to succeed in her job. What if someone who felt they deserved the job were trying to run her down from the mountain back to Palm Springs like a scared little girl? She could never let them, her or him, know they had gotten to her. Just like the British public in World War II, she would keep calm and carry on because this was war. Most threats just rolled off her back, but painting one on a billboard changed a spur-of-the-moment curse into a premeditated crime. She hated when horrible things happened on beautiful days. Screw them. Caroline Popoff was a force to be reckoned with. Breathing in the early morning perfume of the flowering desert, a pleasant musky smell, she pulled out her cell phone and called the billboard company to have the sign replaced. Even if the sign hadn't spooked her, the message could put off some of the players. Experiencing an adrenaline high on the ride to work, her mood shifted between elation and panic.
I love that scene. I love that. I thought that was awesome. Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you.
reading. And thank you for joining us today.
And thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Yes, that scene put me in a panic, not an elation. Wow. It shows a lot about the character, too. Really good. Thank you so much, Cara Bertoia, for joining us for a novel talk. Can you give us a word about what's next for your readers?
I am. I'm kind of thinking about 3 stories right now. Of course, I'm working on the second part. It's of the Nighthawk series. It's set in Palm Springs with a male protagonist. In this book, John will be the most important character. And then a retelling of a story from the 50s, The Best of Everything, only this time it would be set in Lake Tahoe in the 80s. And it's about a group of 5 girls in New York City. And it was a wonderful book, one of the first books I ever read. And then I also write about anything that catches my fancy: gambling, television show, cruise ships, at my blog, carabertoia.blogspot.com. And I just want to add one thing. If any readers take a picture with Casino Queen, I would love to post it on my social media. So send it to my email at carabertoia@yahoo.com. I'm trying to take my novel around the world.
That sounds like so much fun ahead. Yes, listeners, you will want to check out the website, carabertoia.blogspot.com for more information. Sorry?
I talk a lot about casinos there, the reasons to work there, gambling, quotes, all kinds of things.
There you go. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember, a novel read leads to a novel talk.